9th and 10th star home star buildings in New Zealand. The first of each of them, which is kind of ridiculous, really. So welcome aboard, have fun.
So I think I've made things hard for myself because mine are on autopilot. I noticed other people were clicking. So, this is the first time I've done this, so it might be a bit of a roller coaster ride. Is this going to start without me automatically, or do I need to do this? Okay. So I believe I've got the best job in the world. Seriously, we can design buildings that can change lives, and we can heal the climate. All architects, but we're designing zero carbon buildings now. And the serendipitous side effect of this is that we can change people's lives. We can make them happier, healthier, wealthier, and we can literally pull carbon out of the sky and lock it up in our buildings using carbon sequestering materials. It's not moving, and non-toxic natural materials. I'll just do it myself. So New Zealand is wonderfully innovative. We push the boundaries, we punch above our weight in many sectors. We produce world-class science, music, art. We undoubtedly create some wonderful, award-winning, beautiful architecture. So why are worldwide, our buildings produce a third of greenhouse gases, consume 40% of energy. It's even higher in cities, 70% of energy. 50% of processed raw materials. Over 50% of waste going to landfill comes from construction. And it's probably a lot more in Christchurch because of what we've been through in the last few years. So, I think buildings should also be beautiful. And I'm just getting a bit out of sync here. But,
do you want me to
recognise this guy? The building on the right is a bit of a giveaway, the Disney Concert Hall. So Frank Gehry, renowned American architect, 98% of what gets built today is shit. He was talking about something else, but today in New Zealand, 98% of what gets built is built to our building code. And the problem with that is our New Zealand building code is about 25 years out of date compared to other OECD countries. And it's utter garbage. New Zealand building code describes the worst possible building that you're legally allowed to build. The trouble with that is we use it as a target. And all those years ago, Share an Idea campaign, we had 106,000 ideas put forward for Christchurch and how we can have a better city. Green, energy efficient, sustainable. When they said green, they didn't mean more grass. I think, it was an opportunity squandered. The building codes around the world with similar climates to ours are 2 to 3 times better than what ours are. And, particularly with housing, we just carried on, business as usual, building the same. 3 out of 10 on the Home Star 1 to 10 scale. So last conference I did a talk, and then the next day I hopped on a plane and I went to this place in Burnett in Heidelberg in Germany, and I had to go to Europe to do a presentation at a conference on sustainable architecture. So I dropped in here on the way back. 4,000 buildings built to passive house standard. Basically, there was a disused railway shunting yard that they built a whole housing estate and the biggest cluster of passive houses in the world. So zero energy. It was a vision. Christchurch, we needed a vision like this, but we didn't get it. But there's still plenty of gravel car park left, so the opportunity is still there. So Jacinda, before she came into power, her first electioneering campaign speech, she quoted Norman Kirk, and I've underlined somewhere to live here but I think it should be somewhere decent to live, somewhere that isn't going to make us sick, homes that aren't going to make us sick, homes that aren't going to harness us to a lifetime of mammoth power bills. And with this project, some of you might have heard about this project. This was the first 10-star home. It's had quite a bit of press. With this project, we're trying to demonstrate a small, affordable home. We actually did 2 homes, a single story and a 2-story. I don't have time to go into the details, but it's energy positive. It recycles its own water. We had to have less than 10 kilograms per square metre waste go to landfill, almost zero waste. We separated everything at the source. So yeah, zero energy, zero water, near zero waste. I think I'm missing something. Yeah, so probably the first thing to think about is just build what you need. Build space that you're going to use every day. Don't build bigger than you need. In New Zealand, we have a housing crisis. I really think our housing crisis is a health crisis as well as a housing crisis, but we're building to excess. We're building 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom homes where there's a couple of bedrooms that are empty. There's only a third of homes have families in them. So this was an exercise in eliminating waste space, and I think my little point is not working, but it doesn't matter. There's no hallway. Nobody's ever come to me to design a house and said, can I have more hallway? You know, even upstairs here, what can normally be a hallway, we're using that as a home office space. So this is where we sit in New Zealand. 3 out of 10 for the build. It's not good enough. It's not okay. We need to be doing better than that. Auckland Council knew it. Christchurch Council knew it. They tried to implement 6 as a minimum standard. They both failed. Central government said, no, you're not allowed to do that, so we're stuck on 3 stars. I think Christchurch climate, it should be 7 to 10 stars. ANZ Bank have been the first person to move on a green mortgage, and overseas I did a little bit of looking into green mortgages, and you know there are incentives to do innovative lending products that will incentivise transitioning to a low carbon built environment. So ANZ's one is up to 1% off your mortgage interest rate if you do a Homestar 6 or above home. There are different versions of that around the world, but that's good to see. So this is a static image, but this is a tool that we're building, and the idea here is it's an interactive model. You can click on things and change them, and it will display the carbon footprint, the energy performance, the cost to build, what your monthly power bill will be, and there's a little mortgage calculator in here too. So what would happen if you had a zero carbon, zero energy home, and you put everything that you'd normally spend on your power bill onto your mortgage? It would have a massive effect. What's the end value of the property? Well, we did 2 10-star homes and we sold one. It sold for 29% more than it would have if it was a normal home. Now, the skeleton in the closet in New Zealand building is air quality and ventilation, really. So there is no requirement in the building code for ventilation. It's open the window, and a lot of people don't. In Christchurch, you don't want to open the window because it's cold. But our air quality inside our homes is 10 times as bad as the air quality outside. Sustainability. Sustainability is really this nebulous word where it's let's do less damage. And you know, people talk about sustainability as a slower way to die. We need to move towards regenerative design. And we look at what we do. The bad stuff we do, the unsustainable stuff we do is the footprint. The good stuff, everything we do in designing and constructing buildings should add to the planet, and we call that the handprint, the good stuff. And you know, I'm learning about regenerative design. I just did a tour of the country, doing a workshop on that, and so I'm transforming to a regenerative designer. So I'm becoming a regenerate instead of a degenerate. So QuakeStar, I had the idea to instigate this rating tool for building performance after the earthquakes, and I think the time is right. We really need to see this adopted with the sweeping changes that are happening with insurance and the premiums that are skyrocketing. If we had a rating tool, we could see how buildings perform, and that could reduce your premium. do we know how much it costs to run a home? So we know how much it costs for our car, and we have star ratings on our fridges. In Europe, it's mandatory to have an energy performance certificate. It costs £100. It affects the sale price of the properties. It's quick and easy. And Homestar, great ideas, but it's $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000 to get a rating. It's just too expensive, and it's not. It doesn't have uptake. It's not being widely used. So something like this is we're crying out for this in New Zealand. There's 22 million properties being rated in Europe. There's only 22 homes being rated in Christchurch. So life cycle analysis, about a fifth of carbon is the embodied energy and the materials and the manufacturing, transportation and all that. And 4/5 is energy. So energy is by far the most important thing, but this is important too. Brands have a tool. This is an international tool, but brands have a tool. It's called LCA Quick, and we are going to be trialling that new tool. So the biggest thing movement do. So when we created the 10-star home, that was the first super home. And every year since, we've done super home tours. So last year there was 10,000 people visited 12 homes. And that really created awareness and changed their decision making about what they are building. So we surveyed people, and 90% of people were building above code after visiting the homes on this tour. Before that, over 90% of people were just building to code. So fixing the code, I've got a few ideas about that, and I'm going to be presenting at a conference down in Queenstown next week. That's going to be just as tough as this, because that's the last presentation of the day, and everybody will be wanting to get a beer. Thank you very much.